Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me on Friday afternoon. I decided today to put on my Superwoman dress. I bought this dress because it reminds me of my clients who are all super women and super men, but even Superman has his kryptonite. So the purpose of tonight's call is really to counteract some of the fear and the negative news that we've been getting, to talk about how do we protect ourselves in this time of a pandemic, and how do we boost our immune system and figure out what is our unique kryptonite, and how can we learn to maximize our immune system and use this crisis as an opportunity for change, for positive change. We do have a chat box. If you're new to Zoom, you can go down to the bottom of the screen, and there's both Q&A and chat. I like to use chat. You can chat with each other or be anonymous and just do the panelist, which is me. And I'm going to share my screen because I want to cover kind of a review of what we talked about last week for those who missed it. And just a quick overview. I'm challenging everybody to rethink everything. As a health coach, I always challenge people to question everything, because there is no magic bullet. There is no one solution. What we know about from the study of functional medicine is that we can have 10 people with the same diagnosis, and the root cause can be all different. So I want us to think about how we got to this state, and we're really focused a lot in the media on the symptoms, but not on the root cause or some of the simple solutions that we can do. We talked last week about, and I have a quote here from the scientist who isolated vitamin C over 100 years ago, and we talked about how boosting your vitamin C, boosting the essential vitamins can be a way, a simple solution to help you boost your immune system. And particularly during flu season is a time when we have low vitamin D. And there have been some studies that have suggested that low vitamin D might be a root cause of the flu in the first place. And even studies in nursing homes where they gave vitamin D to and one group got the flu shot, one group got vitamin D, and boosting vitamin D level had better results. So some of the simple solutions that all of us can do, and then we listed where we can get it in food as well as supplements. And just a reminder that sometimes when we feel in a panic stage or feel stuck, we tend to do the same things over and over again rather than thinking of some simple solutions and changes. We talked a lot about fear and how the body follows the mind and the mind follows the breath, and that, you know, this pandemic will affect 1 to 2% of us in the US here, but it's going to affect many more of us because of the fear, because of the way we react to it. I suggested that we limit our news watching, because a lot of the news is the same thing over and over again. So, which can spin us up. You know, our politics here can spin us up. The news of the fear around this can spin us up, and fear interferes with our immune system. We have more nerves in our enteric nervous system, as many nerves as we do in our whole spinal cord, and the enteric nervous system, of course, connects the mind and the body. Fear keeps us stuck, it's incapacitating, it shuts down the immune system. And courage is not the absence of fear. It is feeling the fear, acknowledging it. We're not minimizing that we are all affected by this. I'm affected by this. My business is affected by this. My children, it's been dominating our conversations, and there will be far-reaching effects. But courage is acknowledging the situation and acting and choosing to take action anyway. So I want this to be an empowering discussion on what action we can take. My 7 steps to optimal health is to, first step is to take an honest personal assessment. And so that is the first thing is to think about, how are we coping? What are we doing? The 4 top selling items in grocery stores other than toilet paper is often caffeine, sugar, alcohol, and nicotine. So a simple solution, let's see if we can minimize the all of these things that are a direct hit for the immune system. Caffeine affects our adrenals. Our adrenals are our stress response. It can heighten the stress response and actually, over time, limit our ability to have a healthy stress response. Sugar and alcohol are toxins. They're inflammatory. They are a root cause of all chronic disease. And of course, nicotine is linked to those who are most susceptible at this time with respiratory, upper respiratory, and cardiovascular symptoms. We talked a little bit about, and we went through a meditation on how you can ask yourself at anything you're identifying fear. What is the fear? And then ask yourself these following questions. And ask yourself, what would your life be like if this weren't true? So that we can open our mind to new solutions. How would you feel? Can you feel that way in this moment? Can we stay present to ourselves? Can we inhale to the count of 5, hold it, and then exhale to the count of 5? We're living now with all of our family members. We're quarantined. That's an easy way to count to 10. Instead of putting our kids in timeout, or as we're putting our kids in timeout, before we respond, inhaling to the count of 5, holding it, and I recommend we do this many times a day when we're stressed. And we get to choose. We get to choose, how are we looking at this? Are we seeing the glass half empty and stuck in fear? Or are we seeing it half full or 98% full to, okay, what are the things we're grateful for? What are the things that we can do that we can do? And we have a choice. Here are some functional medicine basics that instead of treating the symptoms, we look at the root cause, and we know that every person is unique. And so the treatment or the recommendations or the solutions will be different for all of us. What is stressing our immune system? Why do we have upper respiratory issues? Is it a lack of the vitamins or minerals? Is it food sensitivities? Many of us don't tolerate dairy. Dairy is mucus forming. If we just try and take dairy out of our diet during this time, does our respiratory issues disappear? Particularly if you've got an autoimmune disease, we want to do a trial, do a test, take gluten out of your diet, see if that doesn't help heal the gut. Gluten, whether you have a food sensitivity or celiac or not, it opens up the villi that allows undigested food particles, viruses, bacteria to enter the bloodstream, and that can cause an inflammatory response. So is it stress? Is it caffeine, alcohol, birth control pills, just stress that's affecting our gut lining, that is affecting our upper respiratory system? So, and know that the body is always working on homeostasis to get back to wellness and equilibrium. And so all of our symptoms, all disease precedes the diagnosis or the disease. So we want to pay attention to all of our symptoms, and we want to ask ourselves, why might we be having these symptoms? And not in a fear way, but in curiosity. How do we turn fear into curiosity? Why would my body be reacting like this? And know that your solution is always different from someone else's. And that I want to urge everyone to become an active participant in your own health and well-being. There is so much on the internet. There is so much on the news. There's so much contradictory information that can, again, spin our anxiety up. So find the research, look at the data, get in the habit of deciding for yourself, and then know and believe in the power to heal and in your own treatment, whatever you are choosing at this time. It is important because the body follows the mind. So will you be part of the solution? Or are we going to and empower one another with things that we can do? Or are we going to be part of the problem, which is keeping the fear up and limiting our immune system? This is why I'm offering these free seminars, so these free talks for us to calm down a little bit and know that viruses do mutate, and they become less virulent over time. So as time goes on, as we're flattening the curve with our quarantine, we're doing so many things to protect ourselves. We are in a safe, healthy space. So we can take our deep breaths. We can use this time at home with our loved ones to think about change, to think about what we can do. When you have a healthy immune system, you're better able to fight viruses. I don't think anybody can dispute this, because over 60% of the immune system is in the gastrointestinal tract. And as I said, the gut has its own nervous system. It communicates with the central nervous system, and so our thoughts matter. I'm going to challenge you to turn off the news, and do not watch the news while you're eating dinner, because that is going to cause an inflammatory effect in your stomach. You cannot relax and watch the news today. So we need to flip the switch from fight or flight to rest and repair, rest and relax, rest and digest. So do your breath work, your prayers, your meditation before you eat. You can do this 3 or 4 times a day. And know that what we're feeding ourselves is important. Turn off the news before you go to bed. Don't have it be the last thing you see. Turn off your electronics by 8 or 9 o'clock so that you can be in bed by 10 o'clock, so you can take advantage of that really critical time for healing between 10 and 2 in the morning, when our body is really working on repairing the liver, the gallbladder, and cleaning up those viruses, those bacteria. Food matters. Junk food is an oxymoron. It's either junk or it's food. It's not both. And if it's made to sit on a shelf for so long that the bugs won't even eat it, then there's no really life or nutrition left in it for you. So eat whole, nutritious food. And then really watch the external stress. So we've got external stress from mental, emotional stress from what's going on in the world today. One of my clients asked me this week, she said, could stress be a root cause of my skin issues? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. Other causes of skin issues, respiratory issues, inflammation, chronic disease are hidden stressors we might not be aware of. Things going on in the GI tract, candida, parasites, H. pylori overgrowth, pathogenic bacteria, or environmental stressors like mold, mercury, lead, or the 80,000 chemicals that we have allowed in our environment, in our food, our air, our water, our beauty products, our household products. All of these things affect our immune system. So we're going to talk a little more about that today. So things that can either support a healthy immune system or detract from it, depending on our choices, depending on our dietary habits. Are we eating a processed food, sugar-laden, caffeine and alcohol-laden diet? Or are we bringing in more green leafy vegetables? Is half our plate in vegetables? Are we bringing in those healthy fats that we need, and and healthy protein. How are we handling stress? How are we viewing this time? Are we viewing this time in fear mode, or are we looking at how can I reassess what I'm doing in my personal life and our business? Maybe take some time to meditate and really start to create the future and the life that you want. Physical activity. Are we working out so much every day that we're staying in this stress mode, or are we incorporating physical activity that is both aerobic and conditioning, but also offers stress reduction? Mental attitude, we can't stress this enough. And then really an opportunity to work on and prioritize our relationships with family, with work. And that we can eat all the broccoli we want in the world. But if we don't look at all these other areas, the dietary changes alone are not sustainable. So this is my mantra: maximize, minimize, and prioritize what your unique body needs. And everyone's different. We've covered maximizing in great detail. We're going to talk about minimizing now. Minimizing toxicity. And again, it surrounds us. We live in a toxic environment. The good news is our bodies are very capable and able, and are always, every day, doing some kind of detoxing in our breath, in our lungs, in our sweat, in our feces, in our urine. We are eliminating toxins, and the body does this naturally. And there are ways to boost it. Minimizing hormone issues. We'll talk a little more about that, but there are many things in our environment that affect our hormones, endocrine disrupting chemicals. So go to environmental working group, look for better cleaning products, replace your personal care products. Don't drink water out of a plastic container, get glass or stainless steel. Avoid the BPA in cans. You know, it's popular, everyone's drinking out of aluminum cans. Avoiding these heavy metals. Filter your air and water. Why do we talk about toxins? Again, it's all over the news, which can create fear or empowerment. You know, take your time and look in your pantry. BHT is a chemical that's used in rubber and fuel and embalming liquid, and we're also putting in our children's cereal, and it's linked to cancer, asthma, behavioral issues. How can we clean up and make and have a better breakfast choices? Toxins are affecting our brains. I think I referenced the Ultramind Solution, one of many books. I've referenced Reversing Alzheimer's and Dementia, Dale Bredesen. We can reverse cognitive decline. Any neurodegenerative condition, we have to look at toxins. There have been many lawsuits now for the for glyphosate Roundup that we're using in our gardens, that as being a probable carcinogen, and now linking it directly with cancers. So looking at the dirty dozen and eating all organic. And of course, you know, infertility is becoming an all-time high. I love to work with couples before they want to get pregnant on helping to minimize toxicity and maximizing what they need so that we can have healthy offspring. As a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 2, I'm very passionate about this. Even the studies are showing that I don't know what's scarier, cancer or coronavirus at this time. And for a few of my clients who are challenged with both, this is very important to really focusing on what can we do. And diet, lifestyle, and environment plays 90 to 95% roles. So what can we do to maximize, minimize, and prioritize? And of course, we're familiar with in Flint, Michigan, that a state of emergency from the lead in the water. It is all of our older cities. We need to be filtering our water no matter where we live. So there are different types of toxins. Poisonous substances that come from outside the body, metals and chemicals, you know, heavy metals. Many of us have amalgams in the mouth. And then there's other toxins, the endotoxins or the mycotoxins from our die-off of mold and heavy metals that are inside of our body, the die-off from overgrowth of bacteria. Stress, we've talked a lot about that. And then there's miscellaneous electromagnetic frequencies. Some people, when they start putting all these Wi-Fis in the room, suddenly have issues with hypertension. They can't sleep, insomnia, unplugging the router at night, unplugging these things. We are electrical beings also. Others have questioned, Wuhan just put 5G everywhere. And there's a lot of questions about the effects of electromagnetic frequency in the environment. And some people are more susceptible than others. So how do we minimize some of these things? And then even there have been studies in the wound looking at toxins. A benchmark study that was done in 2005, and then again with a minority population in 2009, with even with series results, found in the umbilical cord, before our babies are born, 287 chemicals, 180 of them are carcinogenic, no neurotoxins. We're wondering why we're having this epidemic of chronic disease. And then studying it in toxins in adult, in the blood. So, and when we look at these studies, how many people tested had these in them? All of them, everybody. We're all affected. So there are many things that affect our toxin tolerance. And when we start to have symptoms of disease, it's when our buckets are filling up or too full or overflowing, that's when we get the symptoms. We can look at things before we get to the points of symptoms. We can look at our environment, we can look at our genetics, we can look at our nutrition. That gives us a picture of our toxic exposure and our absorption. And then when we look at how are we either retaining these toxins in the body to get all of our inflammation, our chronic disease, or are we able to excrete them and have optimal wellness? And we all are different. We all have different toxin tolerances. So this is not a time to have guilt or shame or beat ourselves up with, no matter what diagnosis you have. This is a time to be curious. All right, we know we've got these effects. What can we do to minimize them? I mentioned this last week. I'm going to mention it again. Go on environmentalworkinggroup.org, Skin Deep Products. You can look up the products. There's an app on your phone when you go to the store, and you can see how they're rated. And you know, this one was rated high in allergies and immunotoxicity. So we want to have a better choice. How else can we reduce exposure? In the food we have, organic if we can. Now's the time, put seeds in the garden. It's very cheap. If you've got a windowsill somewhere, you can put in a pot, and then you can grow lettuces really 9 months out of the year, depending on where you live. And it's inexpensive. It's something everybody can do. We're going to look at our kitchen, our household products, personal care items, air and water. Avoid plastics, clean cookware. These nonstick coatings, especially when they start to get nicked on it, they are full of phthalates, PFOAs, petrochemicals that are endocrine disrupting chemicals. Stainless steel and ceramic are my favorite. If you need iron, cast iron, occasionally, not every day, not all the time, because too much iron can be inflammatory too, and not everybody can rid their body of it. I got rid of my microwave. When I redo my kitchen, there will be no microwave. We don't need the microwave. Minimize microwave use. Use cleaning products. Vinegar and water and baking soda will clean just about anything. And then there's some companies that offer, if you don't want to do your own, that offer nice, clean smelling products with essential oils. The word fragrance can have legally 3,000 chemicals in it. So read the labels. If it has fragrance, we want to avoid it. The off-gassing that we smell in new cars and furniture, these are toxic. We're breathing them in. Keep the windows open, air it out if you have new furniture, or better yet, you know, I've got a good friend and colleague who her business is helping you find and buy healthy, cleaner products in our bedding, in our beds. And when I was redoing my yoga studio, I picked products that are clean, that will not have off-gassing. So if we are in a luxury position of making purchases and buying things, be more mindful of the home environment. No deodorizers, no scented candles. These are full of products we do not need to be inhaling. Instead, we're going to look at the root cause of what's causing the odors. Healthy Living app. This is the app on the environmental working group. And so you can start looking at your shampoo. I think we have, by the time we get to work in the morning, we've got like 87 exposures between our makeup, our shampoo, our soaps. I am not an advocate of sunscreen, but if you're going to use sunscreen, because sunscreen blocks the vitamin D that we need so much of for healthy immune system and everything else. And vitamin D can turn on and off the expression of cancer at the stem cell level. We need our vitamin D, and the best place to get is from the sun. So get as much sun as you can without burning. That's the fire alarm, your own personal fire alarm. Do you turn red? Do you burn? Get out of the sun, put on clothing, or find a sunscreen that's zinc, that's without the carcinogens, please. And know that when you're putting that sunscreen on, you are blocking your ability to make your own vitamin D. Coconut oil. That's what I used for 10 years as a moisturizer. It's antibacterial, it's an antiviral, also, and antimicrobial. You can do oil pulling with it. You can put it on your skin. Tea tree oil is another good one for rashes and fungus. This is the product I talked about last week that I am liking and using now. So some of the questions that I've gotten, to really talk about what we can do. Since I'm not making an effort to maintain social distancing from my spouse, is my immune system additionally compromised by using my bedroom for other than sleeping? This is a great question. And if anybody saw my interview with Dr. Lindsay Berkson on the Anti-Aging Summit, her book, Sexy Brain, I'm just gonna read you something from here. The health benefits of sex. Sex boosts immunity and gut health. It increases secretory IgA. Secretory IgA is, you can get in a stool test and a comprehensive stool test and see, it's the immunoglobulins, which are your police force. It's the white blood cells that line the gastrointestinal tract that are there to fight viruses, bacteria, foreign bodies. Unfortunately, most of us, the secretory IgA has been beaten down because of the standard American diet. Instead of fighting viruses and bacteria, you are fighting food sensitivities. You are getting reactions to the gluten, the dairy, the sugar, the alcohol. We are beating down. And the stress itself. There's been a lot of news about Motrin. Please do not be taking Motrin at this time, that it can have a severe reaction with this virus. I don't advocate NSAIDs anyway, because they can damage the gut lining. The same with aspirin, the same with Tylenol is tough on the liver. So there are other anti-inflammatories that I prefer to use to keep that gut lining so important. Sex reduces the risk of stroke. It burns calories. It protects us against fatal heart attacks. It relieves stress. It boosts our own, if we're in perimenopause or menopause, or men are losing their testosterone, it boosts testosterone. It boosts our healthy hormones. It can reduce the symptoms of benign prostatic hypertrophy, which is BPH. A lot of men get this, and it helps cleanse the prostate and can be preventative against prostate cancer and breast cancer, by the way, at the same time. It keeps us looking younger. It fights insomnia. It improves sperm quality. It may decrease depression, and it is fun. These are quotes from Dr. Lindsay Berkson. So while we are quarantined, get your coconut oil, get your olive oil, something from the kitchen, and massage. We need contact. We are social beings. So start with massaging the neck, the back, the feet. Yeah, we want to maintain some social contact. If you are fortunate enough to have a significant other that you live with and you are quarantined with. Stress hormones affect our sex hormones, our libido. So you may think, oh, but I'm not in the mood, I'm too stressed. This affects our metabolic hormones. It causes fat dysregulation, and it leads to inflammation, which again is a root cause of all disease. So what we can do to affect stress has a far-reaching physical, mental, emotional effect on our bodies. So stress is the perception of a real or imagined threat to your body or your ego. This is the definition of stress. Right now we've got acute stress, and many of us have both, acute stress and chronic stress. Our bodies are made to handle acute stress all day long, very quickly, rapidly. When it's short term, this can be eustress. Sometimes giving a presentation, that can be acute stress. But chronic stress is what we're faced with. And that is the detrimental to the health. And the quote here, an old journal of the American Medical Association, says that 60 to 80% of primary care doctor visits may be stress related. Other statistics, 80% of the $3 trillion we're spending on healthcare is due to stress. So we cannot not take this too lightly. Here's some of the casualties of stress. Again, if you're suffering from these, it's putting you in higher risk for how we're coping with this virus, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, immune. It completely tanks the immune system. It impairs the thyroid and the adrenals. The adrenals affect the thyroids, which affect our hormones. Everything is interconnected. And it impairs our ability to detoxify, which is what we need to constantly be doing. We've already talked about the gut and inflammation in the body. So what are your stressors? Take a moment and think about, is it the standard American diet? And these are opportunities. Do you have food sensitivities? Maybe you want to do a challenge and remove some of the most common food sensitivities. Gluten, dairy, eggs, corn. I recommend caffeine and alcohol to see, just to test yourself. Nutrient deficiencies. We talked a little bit about that last week. Toxins, hormone balance. Are you exercising too much? Are you getting just the Goldilocks, the right amount? Meal skipping. This is not intermittent fasting. When I mean with meal skipping, we don't want to starve ourselves. Many of us have this myth that if we just eat less and exercise more, we're going to meet our goals. And that's true for many people. But just as many people may need to eat more and exercise less, depending on the overall stress picture. Of course, we're going to see more chronic illness because of the trauma of our environment today. And sleep is huge. And I'm going to say hydration. Are you getting enough water to keep your immune system going? And now we've got more financial issues with what's going on in the media. We talked a lot about family discord, etc. Fortunately, we don't have to deal with too much traffic as we're quarantined in our houses. So what do we do about it? Sleep. So think about your stress management toolbox. Think about after this call, what is it that you can do and prioritize for yourself to improve your immune system as well as the quality of your life? Are you getting sleep? If not, what's interfering with it? Are you drinking enough water? Standard recommendation for many is half your body weight in ounces of water to keep you hydrated. And early in the day, actually, if you're well hydrated, you are less likely to wake up in the morning in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, because it's the dehydration, it's the inflammation, the water, the dehydration from everything seeping into your tissues that often causes us to wake up to think we need to urinate, or it's a stress response. Do you have a practice of prayer or meditation? Do you have an attitude of gratitude? If you've not tried before, we can go online now. There's multiple sources for yoga, tai chi, qigong, guided imagery, journaling. You're not commuting in the morning. Try early morning pages. Try waking up first thing in the morning and just writing down your dreams and your thoughts, and with no judgment, and see what arises. See what new solutions or possibilities arise. Take time to really assess your part in your relationships. We can't change other people. We can try, especially women. We like to try and change other people, especially as healthcare providers. We like to change other people. We can only change ourselves, and we can only be the change we want to be. Be that role model. Guide people, make suggestions, but we need to turn the light on toward ourselves at this time. And then think about, do you have a little more time for some hobbies, some joy from laughter? I've watched a couple of great movies through this. And prioritize you first. We have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves before the family, before the community, the country, the world. And what would our world be like if we were all in optimal health? We would not be here right now. We might not be here in this scenario. The entrance door to the sanctuary is inside you. This is a Rumi quote. He's probably one of the a wise philosopher of our time, just recently passed. But if you haven't read any of his work, that's well worth reading, in my opinion. This is a gal I did a yoga workshop with. She's the world's oldest yoga teacher and the world's oldest ballroom teacher. She is an inspiration. My goal is to inspire, educate, and empower you. When I met her a few years ago in her 90s, she was not on any medication. And she, at 100 years old, last April, her birthday is in April, coming up, she'll be 101. She's still teaching yoga in New York City. And this is a guy in my functional medicine, the School for Applied Functional Medicine group. He posted this picture, and I just had to use it. Yes, we have this. We have the tools. We have so much to be grateful for. Hopefully this webinar is giving you some ideas to think about what you can do. And impossible, if we break up the words, means I'm possible. So how we view things is very important to how we are going to address any stress or environment. So here's our same woman who is holding herself up really on her fingertips, which is a challenge in core strength. And she's in her 90s when this picture is taken. So I'm going to challenge you. I'm thinking about after this, given my time, my business has been affected. I've got a lot of things on my plate. If I have time, I'm considering offering a 4-week challenge, and thinking about every week challenging you and giving you a little more in-depth look at what we might do. Like the first week, how do you decrease inflammation? How do you supercharge your diet? Here's some recipes. Here's some ideas. Here's a lot of resources. And this was my idea that I woke up with. And I'd like to hear from you in the chat if this is something you might be interested in, and take this time now to answer any more questions that you have. So let me stop the share and look in the chat box. I've been doing a lot of talking here. So I'm just going to say here, please add questions, comments. Is this information helpful? Is it useful? Would you be interested in some support in looking at this? I'm thinking that it's an important, it's an important public message that we're not hearing from the media. And I'm passionate about trying to change that. As I think I mentioned before, crisis is an opportunity for change, and the Chinese symbol of change is crisis plus opportunity. And as a healthcare provider, I'm used to taking charge in a crisis. I've had many scenarios in my life when I've been thrown lemons. So, you know, I'm challenging us, how do we make lemonades together as we're quarantined? And in this respect, all disease is an opportunity. And again, I'm always saying, ask not what's wrong with me, but what is my self-loving, self-healing, self-repairing body trying to tell me with these symptoms? And then we can get to the root cause. And then we have true healing and optimal health. So I think I've answered, oh, here we go. No. So I think I've answered all of our questions. I hope this was helpful, and I hope this weekend is going to be in the 70s where I am. I hope you take this time to, you can practice social distancing, as I said last time, as we get out in nature, get away from our computers, and find some, a little exercise and walking. Carpe diem, have a fabulous evening. Thank you.